Today I'm back in South Beach again, and it's been kind of cool coming down here and showing you guys some of the areas that I actually like in South Beach. And these are places that most people that visit here will never see because they're very small little corners of South Beach that are very residential, don't have a bunch of riffraff, don't have all the stuff going on that you typically associate with South Beach. So this is another little spot that I love. It's over by West Avenue near the Flamingo building, but just north of it. And right over here we have a bunch of these small little garden apartments that are right by the bay over here. Such a beautiful view. I'm gonna bring you guys over there so you can check it out. But it's just a cool little spot to walk around, and let's go see this little corner of South Beach. Now you guys know that I love talking about remote work, and I just have to start the video off with this because I can't believe the amount of articles and things I'm starting to see on this. And the latest one to come out is saying that workplace attendance has improved significantly since last month, with just 5.2% of workers now doing their jobs remotely. So that's not very many. So in August, that percentage was 6.5%. Now it's 5.2% of people are working remote. And contrast that with back in May of 2020, 35% of people were working remotely back then. So that just goes to show you the amount of people now who are back in the office. And I know a lot of you guys who watch my channel say that you are a remote worker and that you'll never go back to the office if the place requires you to. And I don't blame you, especially if your job can be done remotely without any headaches or, complaints from management, right? Why not? So yeah, I hear you. But it does seem like the overall trend is more and more companies are requiring people to come back to the office. But I think you're also going to have a select set of companies out there that are going to be pro remote work and just keep the remote work around because they found a system that works for them and their employees. So if you want to stay a remote worker, just be prepared that you might have to change jobs or companies or whatever in order to remain remote because of so many companies requiring people to come back to the office. And the other thing that I read about this is right now the leisure, hospitality, and construction industry are the industries that are booming the most right now when it comes to job growth. These are where all of the jobs are being created and the unemployment rate is at its lowest. And construction is especially important right now because obviously we need more homes built throughout the entire country, especially if you just look at a place like here in Florida where we got all the hurricane damage. Imagine all the houses over there that need to be rebuilt or homes that might end up getting retrofitted in order to meet more modern building codes. There's a lot of things that can happen with this, and this could be a good career to get into right now. Now I realize not everybody wants to be a construction worker, but there is money in that along with other things associated with it, like plumbing, like electrician work, building inspector work. There's a lot of different things that revolve around the construction industry that maybe you want to look at right now if you're looking for a job. And one thing that a lot of employers are doing right now is they're basically putting a hiring freeze in place because this is their first stopgap when it comes to avoiding basically letting people go. First, they're going to try not hiring anybody else and seeing if they can survive like this. But if the economy gets worse and their business starts sinking despite that, then the next thing that's going to be coming from a lot of these companies is going to be layoffs, guys. And that's just the way business works. That's the only way a business can survive a lot of times. So get ready for that because we're already seeing a ton of companies that have planned to do layoffs this year. And I think you're just going to continue to see that into 2023 if this recession gets worse. Now think about this. The average hourly earnings for non-government workers in the United States went up 10 cents last month, and now people are making, on average, this is just an average, $32.46, which makes for a 5% increase in the national wage over the past year. Well, guess what, guys? The official inflation number, not the real one, is 8.6% right now, which also went up a small percentage point in August too, by the way. So they thought they had this inflation tamed, but they don't, guys. It's not tamed, and it turns out that it's actually starting to go back up now. And look at how many interest rate hikes we've had already that aren't doing anything. So that's something to think about right now. One of the reasons that the leisure and hospitality industry are doing so well right now is just because people need work. They need somewhere to work. And usually what happens when all these jobs get soaked up is because there's nowhere else for people to go. So it turns out, it looks like the complaint that a lot of people have is for real when it comes to a lot of the jobs being out there are entry-level jobs that don't pay so well, because I can pretty much guarantee you most of these leisure and hospitality jobs aren't paying the average wage of $32 an hour. So if you guys out there work in the hospitality industry, let me know if you make this or even more, because I'm willing to bet that most people probably don't. And the worst part is, even if you do, it's still not enough to keep up with this insane inflation that we're dealing with right now. And typically what happens to the people who take these jobs right now is they won't remain in these jobs. They'll just take these jobs temporarily just because people need money to survive. But as soon as a better opportunity comes along, they usually will take it. And this is probably what you're going to see, except for the fact that as more companies start doing layoffs and the economy goes deeper into this recession, there's going to be nowhere else to go. And unfortunately, people are probably going to be stuck with these jobs for a while and just be lucky to have a job at all under the circumstances. So that's kind of how I see things going into 2023. I don't see people leaving a bunch of these leisure and hospitality jobs for better opportunities when things aren't going so well with our country. Now, one of my channel members, Nick, he sent me an article this morning about what's going on with the housing market and how things are just weird right now. And yeah, they are weird. And I want to point out a segment of this article that's pretty interesting. And it kind of goes into what is the lock-in effect, okay? So if you've never heard of this term, what the lock-in effect essentially is it's a term being used for homeowners right now that have an ultra low interest rate, people that got into the home in the 2.7, 3.5% range, rates that we'll probably never see again in our lifetime. And the idea behind this is that these people are not going to sell right now because there's just no reason for them to sell, which is not actually true. There's plenty of reasons they might end up selling. We're not going to go into that. I made a whole video on that if you guys want to know more about why people would sell, even if they have a great rate. And this article has pointed to this lock-in effect as part of the reason why home inventory is still relatively low. But let's look at the facts, guys. Home inventory is going up right now. It's still climbing every single month. Not by a lot, but it is going up. It's not going down, okay? That's the first thing. That's just an active listing count of existing homes for sale, all right? That's not even in factoring in any type of new construction homes that are available for sale right now. So there's that. And the other factor to this is the fact that home affordability is basically at an all-time low. When you have 7%, 7.5% interest rates for the average borrower, and you have the median home price at $389,000, most people can't afford a $2,400, $2,500 a month payment. And that's if you're buying a single family home with no HOA dues or anything extra on top of that. If you're buying a condo in this price range, you're going to have your HOA fees on top of that. Same thing if you end up buying a home that's in an HOA community. So there's an additional expense for you. But I just want to come out and say that I don't think that this rate lock-in effect is going to have a big enough impact long term, because my thesis on the housing market is always the same, guys, that you're going to have sales and you're going to have people moving and life happening regardless of what's going on out there, even if you have this amazing rate. Now, sure, current homeowners are not going to be nearly as incentivized to take on a new mortgage at double what they have right now, but if you put somebody in the position where they could sell right now still at a good price and then move to a less expensive area, or they're downsizing, then it still might not be a bad deal for them, and then they could end up refinancing later down the road. So that's how I see this playing out long term. See, this whole area that we're in right now is behind the Flamingo condo in South Beach. Got the boat dock out here, the bay. Got this whole little bayfront walk. It's really cool. Here's something crazy. A couple weeks ago, we talked about the pension crisis that they're having over in England. Well, this is happening here in the United States too, and we could end up being in even more trouble here, because if you guys don't know about this, one thing that's happening right now is state pension funds are starting to gamble on cryptocurrency. This was an article right out of Forbes. You can go check this out for yourself, but a lot of these pensions are getting so desperate to make a good return that they're now starting to invest in, Bitcoin, Ethereum, and other supposedly reputable cryptocurrencies. And this could be a total disaster, guys. And basically the reason that this could be a disaster is because, well, first of all, let's go over the facts. 94% of pensions right now that are state and government sponsored have some sort of cryptocurrency in their portfolio right now. So that's basically all of them. So this is not just a small problem relegated to, one small segment of the pensions. This is almost all of them, of these state and government-backed pensions. So a lot of problems can happen with this. I'm not going to go into all the details, but a couple of the main concerns are this. The first one is cryptocurrency is a completely unregulated thing right now, and you could basically bet that there are going to be a lot of regulations coming to cryptocurrency in the future. The SEC right now considers cryptocurrency to be a public offering of securities, okay? But that conflicts with another agency called the CFTC. I don't know how many agencies the government has, but these are where your tax dollars are going. They said Bitcoin and Ethereum are not securities, but they are commodities subject to regulation with the CFTC. So obviously, there's not even agreement with our own government agencies on how these things should even be classified right now. So that's the first problem. Once these things become more clear and more of these regulations start coming into play, that can change the value of cryptocurrency, okay? So that's the first risk. The other thing is, if they start investing in more volatile cryptocurrencies or lesser known ones, they could see much more trouble coming in the future in the form of lawsuits. We're talking class action lawsuits, basically because they're investing in these unlicensed financial products. The pensioners who receive money from these pensions could end up suing the pension fund themselves or the fund managers because of them investing in these highly unregulated products right now. And obviously that can completely affect the value of the pension or how much money you might receive from your pension later down the road because of these lawsuits. So these are two major glaring issues right now when it comes to pensions. So if you do have a state or government-backed pension, you need to be worried about this right now, and you need to start asking questions, guys. And it's almost not even a matter of if your pension is invested in this right now. Chances are it probably is, but if you can talk to somebody and find out how much of it's invested in there and see if there's a way that this can be sold or reversed, that would probably be a good move right now. But the thing is, pensions are looking at these type of investments because the stock market is in big trouble right now, and that's typically where pensions invest the most money. They're investing in the stock market. But look at that, S&P 500 is down by like 25% this year, guys. So imagine if your pension is invested in that, look where that's going. So there's so many problems with having a pension right now. And this is just why I said in past videos, when it comes to retirement and planning for your own future, you can't rely on any of this stuff anymore, guys. You can't rely on pensions, you can't rely on 401ks. I mean, you just have to do it yourself. And everyone's path to that is going to be different. I'm not here to tell you exactly what to do, but retirement could be a thing of the past with all these problems right now with pensions and the stock market and your 401k. Kathy Wood from ARK Invest, she came out recently writing a letter to the Fed saying that they're risking an economic bust right now. And what she's saying is, instead of looking at employment and price indexes from previous months, that they should be looking at commodity prices that indicate the biggest economic risk going forward is deflation, not inflation. So what is deflation? Deflation is when the general price levels in a country are falling, as opposed to inflation when prices are going up, okay? And deflation can be caused by an increase in productivity, a decrease in overall demand, or a decrease in the volume of credit in the economy. Sounds familiar, right? Well, everything costs more now because of inflation. Consumer demand for everything is starting to go down because people can't afford as many things anymore. You got that. Simultaneously, credit's drying up because interest rates are too high. Most people don't want to borrow, including me. I don't want to take on a loan right now. How else can we get to deflation? Well, listen to this, guys. In general, deflation can occur when an economy is heavily laden with debt and dependent on the continuous expansion of supply of credit to inflate asset prices by financing speculative investment, and subsequently, when the volume of credit contracts, asset prices fall and speculative overinvestments are liquidated. So, this sounds exactly like what's happening right this very moment in our housing market and our economy. And I think this is all but a guarantee that this whole thing is going to come crashing down very soon. I think we're already at the beginning stages of it right now, and that's why you have people like Cathie Wood and Elon Musk who are in charge of a lot of people's money. They're basically worried right now. They think the Fed's going to tank the market, and they've come out and said that that's what they're going to do. So you can pretty much guarantee the Fed is going to tank the market, and everyone is going to be affected by this in some way or another. But even more so, these people who are in charge of these investment funds like Cathie Wood, these guys are going to get hit extremely hard, guys, because they have a lot to lose since they have all this money tied up in these big asset and debt bubbles. You know, the everyday people like you and me, maybe we'll see our home values go down a little bit, but who cares, right? If you're not moving, this ain't gonna affect you as much. The main thing you gotta worry about is keeping your income coming in and keeping your job and keeping your bills paid and staying out of debt. That's our concern right now, but these guys have much bigger problems right now. So here's the big problem, guys. We have the Fed on one side. They're saying, we're gonna continue raising interest rates until this inflation is squashed, okay? And we're gonna take the economy down with it if necessary, because inflation is public enemy number one. Okay. And then you have people on the other side like Cathie Wood and Elon Musk who are terrified of these continuing interest rate hikes because they're going to destroy their businesses, and particularly with Cathie Wood, who's in charge of these big investment funds. You know, her clients are going to be losing a ton of money, and obviously that makes her look really bad and is going to affect her bottom line as well. So, you know, these big players in the economy have a lot to lose, and so far, the Fed has kept their promise with these interest rate hikes, and they're not going to be slowing down anytime soon, it seems. And they're not alone. About 40 central banks across the world are doing the same thing right now. So this is a global phenomenon where we have all of the big central banks across the entire world doing the same thing right now with these interest rate hikes, which is why this is going to be a global economic downturn, not just a local one to the US here. But they're basically worried that the Fed is going too far and the damage is basically almost done already, where they're at risk of putting the economy into an all-out recession, which once again, we know is already the case. But, you know, people don't want to admit this. These big CEOs and executives definitely don't want to admit that's the case, because as soon as that comes out, as soon as the R word starts becoming the norm and recession gets thrown around out there as this is what's happening, then you can bet all these people who are invested in funds like Cathie Wood's and other big investment funds, they're going to start panicking and pulling money out, which we're already starting to see happen in the stock market. So that's probably just going to get worse, guys. And what happens when the stock market goes down? A lot of things happen. You have companies start doing layoffs because their share price is sinking through the floor. You have people who have all of their wealth tied up in the stock market, similarly to the ones we talked about who have all their wealth tied up in just one house that got destroyed by the hurricane. You're going to see people go broke from this, because anyone who has all their money tied up in the stock market is going to suffer big time right now. Now, yeah, sure, it could recover, and it probably will, just like the housing market will, but it's not going to be tomorrow. And if you're retiring today and all your money is there, and you know your 401k is now a 101k, you're in trouble. So I'm just bringing all this up because I want people to be prepared for this, because right now it's probably still in the early phases, and you might still be able to do something to save yourself from this in order to, take a smaller blow during this recession. Just trying to help, guys. Now, if you guys want to see more videos like this one and you want to support the channel, just hit the notification bell down below the video. That way you guys get alerted every time I have a new video come out. And if you don't want to wait for that, you can just check out the next one right over here, and I'll see you over there.